Welcome back, everybody. Hope you enjoyed your lunch, had something nice to eat. We've now got two speakers to talk about tower cranes and virtual design and construction techniques. J.R. Moran is Director of Crane Operations at B&G Equipment and Supply, the crane division of Brasfield & Gorrie. Many of you will know Brasfield & Gorrie as one of the largest privately owned contractors in the USA, based in Birmingham, Alabama. JR's worked at B&G for 14 years. He's joined here this afternoon by Russ Gibbs, who's Innovation and Operational Technical Director at Brasfield & Gorrie. He has many years of experience in the application of virtual design and construction and BIM techniques, business information modeling. Please welcome them both to the stage.
Thank you. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. As Alex said, I'm J.R. Moran. I'm Brasfield & Gorrie's Director of Crane Operations, presenting today with my colleague Russ Gibbs, Director of Innovation for Brasfield & Gorrie. Russ and I will present to you today three things: who we are as a company, how we're using virtual design and construction to impact our hoisting scope of work, and where we're headed as a company in terms of crane deliverables. We've been in business for 54 years. We're one of the nation's largest privately held contractors. We have 2,800 employees, 200 active jobs operating in various market sectors across the country, with projects ranging up to $700 million in value and projected revenues for 2018 at $3.5 billion. A little bit about our fleet. Majority of our fleet we hold is tower cranes at 24, with some mix of crawlers, rough terrain hydraulics, and material hoist along with those to complement the tower cranes. I'd like to now turn it over to Russ, and he's going to introduce to you a little bit about virtual design and construction and how it applies to Brasfield & Gorrie.
Thank you. So really what I want to do is just lay a foundation or a baseline on BIM and virtual design and construction, and then really talk about the relationship as a general contractor, how we have evolved that process throughout construction and then started to implement kind of all aspects of who we work with, and how that relationship built between JR and I to really get the cranes involved in that process and planning up front so that we can do a better job as a general contractor to really start to implement a true accurate design as far as planning, logistics, cost with tower cranes way early on and conceptual as the project is being thought out. So the image that's on the screen is one that we sort of put together, and it's the evolution of BIM as for us as a general contractor. What it started off as just a 3D model or a pretty picture. Hey, let's get this in 3D so that we can see it and understand it a little bit better. What BIM has done for us at Brasfield & Gorrie, it's really turned into more of a process that we're trying to recreate the activities on the construction site in the computer, a virtual construction site. So what we've tried to do is try to mimic to say, hey, you've got your project, one location on the earth that construction activity has taken place. We need a virtual environment to be able to monitor that as well. And so what we've done is we've used techniques and building information modeling to have one location to monitor real-time changes on the job site so that we can predictively plan better. So a little bit, here's this clicker. Which button is it? Just the green one? Yeah. So the next steps is sort of talking through the evolution of that and then where we are moving forward. So what this is basically just an image showing what BIM used to be for us. We would go through the trouble of 3D modeling the project. We would lay out the streets, the logistics planning, and then we would basically get our marketing team to go download a random crane model somewhere and just stick it in for visual purposes. And there was a real big disconnect between JR and the actual person that was putting the true plan together and what we were proposing to the design teams early on. I mean, you got to think, this is when the project is really starting to get schematic or design development level. So it was really just a pretty picture. There was not much value add at this point, although we were going to a lot of effort to get here. So then the next step was, hey, what if we start to put more information into the cranes themselves? Pick radiuses, actual heights. Let's get the building as it's starting to go up in the virtual environment and really start to show a little bit more planning. The thing at that point is we were still using fake cranes. They were just masses. We would really get the height, we would get the boom length or jib length, and then we would have these pick radius that really showed how far it could go out to reach something, but it had zero capacity at that radius point. So what that evolved into was really us, me and JR, building a relationship and starting to say, hey, we need to get your accurate information into our models so that we can predictively plan better. And that's what we did here. And I think Marco mentioned earlier in his presentation and showed the video, is we internally wanted to get the crane manufacturer's Revit model and model it identical. We wanted the sequencing, the lift plan, the radius, all of the information that a crane could have inside of this Revit family. So what we did internally is we modeled this Revit family so that we could pull it in and start to show that plan. So what I want to do is just show you a video now of what is this virtual process. We see a lot of videos early on, hey, this is what the project will look like. But as the project evolves, BIM has to evolve as well. So as a general contractor today, this is a job that I think we won it about 2 years ago. We're currently on site, and then we've got, JR will show a little bit more pictures of sort of the earthwork and where we are with crane mobilization. But what you're about to see is a video of a BIM or a virtual job site. There are 2 full-time BIM coordinators on the site at all times. We have a licensed drone pilot that's flying that job site. We have a laser scanner, and then we have a team that's doing the self-performed concrete modeling. So just for perspective, 7 years ago, we had 4 people in our BIM group. Now we have 42 people in our BIM group company-wide. So the growth in this environment is really ramping up. So what I'm going to play real quick is the existing campus was captured by a drone. On the street level was captured by a laser scanner. We used the design team's BIM model to show the new tower that's up front, and we used JR's cranes to put in there to predictive plan how we were going to build the job. So as this plays, it's not just a pretty picture. I mean, it's all of the accurate information down to the inch, you know, with accuracy that we're able to plan and show the owner and move the crane's location out of sidewalks, existing trees, how far is it from the building, at what point in the schedule are we going to be able to kind of, you know, move the crane or not move the crane, where does it need to be early on? And all of this is done before we ever mobilize on site. And what it's doing is building a relationship between JR and the crane team and the designers and our pre-construction personnel way up front in the job so that the plan can get used. And so this is basically, as you saw that image that showed the virtual job site and the physical job site, and we want those things to equal so that we can monitor back and forth. That's what we're shooting for as a contractor.
So as we look at this in terms of where we've been, where we're headed, we ask ourselves, so how does this process really change what we're delivering to the end user, the construction team? Because let's face it, for many, many years, producing 2D drawings, putting your hard hat on, going and meeting with a client, walking a job, putting together a plan to mobilize cranes, it works. It's worked for a long time. And we're not suggesting otherwise. However, like everything, there are gaps in communication there. And what we're doing is working to bridge those communication gaps through a 3D model or a virtual environment. As we refine that process and integrate into that virtual environment, this is where we're headed. We're leaving here, and we're going here. So we're taking our sequence lift plan that's produced during mobilization, and we're tying that back to the 3D model. So our lift plan has links for every pick made, tying it back to the model. And you can see here as we make the picks, it builds the crane just as we would. We're able to show this to the construction team, the developer, how we're going to impact the construction site, how long we're going to impact the construction site, what that impact physically looks like during a particular process. So through this, we're creating a situation where we're offering more info as it relates to cranes to a larger audience, and hopefully that information is being used in a way that not only helps us, but it impacts the construction industry. So here we have the project that Russ was just speaking of. Here we flew a drone, collected data, took that data from the drone flight, uploaded it into Revit, and before bricks and mortar are on the job, we've placed 3D models of the cranes in the site, and we use this to plan how we're going to get in and out. How is this going to impact your site as we're erecting the 3 cranes, and then we're able to lay in the actual concrete model and understand what that may look like from a demobilization standpoint. And then throughout the process, our project teams can evaluate what impact the cranes have on their schedule and how we're going to climb cranes and that kind of thing. And then here you see the same project where we've actually taken the drone data, laid in the finished product of what that's going to look like. This project is scheduled to complete late 2019. So our goal is to integrate the hoisting scope throughout the entire construction planning process. And you know, the question is, well, how do we do that? And Russ and I have asked ourselves that over and over again. How do we integrate into a virtual environment? And I think where we've seen it work is we engage construction teams into the planning process through a virtual environment, not only just showing it on a screen, but here's an example of how we've done that. So this video is actually taken in our office. The job that he is looking at right here is in pre-construction right now. So we're able to take an individual from the construction team and put them actually on the crane, and he can view the site from the crane, which gives you a little bit different perspective than just looking at a plan view drawing and placing cranes as we have in the past. So in closing, you know, I hope we can agree that we all want to do at least 3 things. One is impact the construction industry in a positive way, promote our crane industry in a positive way, and have more positive touches with our clientele. Whether you're a crane supplier, a construction company, or somewhere in between, we want to be able to get more touches, develop better relationships with our clients. And we truly believe that this is a vehicle that will allow us to do that. Russ and I have seen over and over again as we become more and more integrated into this process, the conversations between crane scope of work and construction process become much more collaborative, and it becomes much more of a team atmosphere rather than just one scope of work that we need to check a box and talk about at some point in time. At this time, I want to thank you for allowing Russ and I to kind of speak to you about where we're at, where we're headed, where we're extremely encouraged by this, and we hope you found our presentation very informative today.
Yeah. Thank you very much, JR and Russ. I wonder if someone's got a question for them, please. Somebody must have something they want to know. No? Well, one thing I wondered was, what does it require from the cranes themselves to fit in with this system? Is there anything that they need to have, sensors or any kind of requirements, or can it just be a standard tower crane?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I'm sure that once you get to the physical job site, there's a lot of room for growth in the reporting Similar to that, I think that it's very similar to the automotive industry where you have your GPS map. And if you can kind of look at Tesla and what they're doing with all of the technology there and how a tower crane may have some features that start to report data, I think that's a pretty cool aspect. As far as just getting into the virtual world and sort of the BIM modeling, we just need to know exactly what the tower crane is. We need to get it in the model. I think that's the first step. And if you can do that, then we can start to work on the reporting side of it. But right now we're modeling all of these cranes internally because we don't have access to that data yet when we purchase. So
yeah, our roadblocks have been actually producing a model in-house that was accurate. So if we have a particular jib length, being able to model that in the most accurate manner, getting exactly what the hook reach is like. I think that from a manufacturer standpoint, that's where they could really plug in and help, is helping us get the cranes modeled in the most accurate manner.